Paul Scheer is here. Our next guest is a man who wears many hats, actor, writer, comedian, and podcast host extraordinaire. Please welcome Paul Scheer to the South by Southwest studio.
I'm so excited to be here. This is amazing.
And you came on a good day.
The morning after the Oscars.
Yeah, and I know you're a movie enthusiast. You love talking about this type of stuff.
What did you think about the Oscars?
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
I thought it was good. I came away with one real strong feeling, which was Nicolas Cage needs to host the Oscars.
Honestly, yeah, that's not crazy.
He was like the way that I felt like he was fun and loose. I just love him. And I have to say that the award for most anticlimactic best picture of all time.
Al Pacino, the best picture thing. You know, a lot of people are saying like it's the new Moonlight, La La Land thing. I'm like, no, I think it's more of the John Travolta, Adele Dazeem thing.
I mean, 100% Adele Dazeem.
Yeah.
What I thought was so funny about it was not that it had no setup whatsoever, but is that he used a German accent. He goes, oh, Oppenheimer. It's like, there's nothing German in that movie at all. Maybe it was of interest to one.
Talking about the Germans like in a faraway sense throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's like,
and
all
he
right.
brought it to the title. But I thought it was hilarious because I'm like, honestly, that's Al Pacino, man. Like you could tell he was just kind of like, look, every nominee, we did this whole thing where we gave everybody love for 5 minutes, 6 minutes straight, and he just said, "Yo, I'm trying to go home."
Well, this is the thing. Every time they give the Best Picture, they give it to Hollywood royalty, this older person. And look, and I would love to be 82 years old and up on that stage and doing it, wearing a scarf, saying whatever.
Right.
But when you put the most important award in the hand of someone who's plus 80, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. It's a crapshoot.
You gotta just leave it to God and just say, "Hey."
I mean, it's not working out. It is not worked out.
I mean, we're just imagining the other Best Picture winners. Oh, we're not. Oh, okay,
Okay,
cool.
yeah. Right.
In all fairness, they did show lengthy kind of clips and everything throughout the
100%.
night, so they did get that due.
But I do love what they did last night, which was have every actor come out and talk about the
I love that. They
performance.
used to do that years ago, years and years ago.
great.
And I love that. I remember, and what was super hilarious was who did they have for Robert Downey Jr.? I want to say it wasn't Christoph Waltz.
No, it was was it Mark Ruffalo or no?
It wasn't Mark Ruffalo.
Jeez.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they made similar jokes about Robert Downey Jr. that Cuba Gooding Jr. did to Robert Downey Jr. when he was nominated for Tropic Thunder.
My gosh.
And I was like, it was like history repeating itself.
That's amazing. See, but I felt like there's camaraderie there, and they were and it's and that's what I really want to watch. And look, I think at the end of the day, you and I may geek out about what wins, best sound, best production design, but people want to see that, and you get 5 stars for one, and it seems like this really fun moment.
Yeah. How do you think Kimmel did, as a host? I call him back a lot.
Yeah, I think that Kimmel is kind of the perfect host because he knows the job. It's fun. I think he pushes exactly the right buttons. I know there was a lot of talk online about did he go too far with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, it's all been said, it's all been done, right? He knows it. He did a little cocaine thing too.
He acknowledges, it's part of the whole thing.
That's what I kind of think, and because I think you can only do that when someone's gotten that far ahead. And I also feel like there's only so many targets in the room. How deep is he going to go on Lily Gladstone, right? It's and then you walk that line of you can make fun of the older Hollywood royalty. Although I do say that I love Steven Spielberg. It didn't feel like he got the Fabelmans joke. And then sometimes he feels like he's in on it, and then sometimes it's
he's not.
Yeah.
It's you guys are just milking me at this point. I know.
Because you become a prop. Yeah. I hosted the Critics' Choice Awards, and one of the things, not this year, but one of the things that you do is you kind of have to run it by everybody. Hey, we're going to put a camera on you. Would you do it? And people say no. And I can only imagine the amount of people Spielberg. He's not nominated, so he's calm.
Yeah, he's the mascot at this point.
Yeah,
the poster boy of the Oscars. And all respect to Steven Spielberg, if I would kill to be the mascot of the freaking Oscars.
Yes. But it's and especially I think it's hard. It's good to pick a person who's not nominated. Because then they have nothing. Martin Scorsese did fall asleep, right?
Him and his wife were
fine, I get it. I get it.
But it was those little moments that I really, really loved. Some of my favorite moments were John Mulaney's Madam Web joke.
So fun.
So fun, so great. And it talks about the different spectrum of films on a night where we're supposed to be celebrating the best.
I know.
Where it's hey, this is part of the culture of cinema.
Well, I still want these 2 awards. I mean, first of all, I love the Casting Director Award. I love that just because of an industry thing. I love that we will get stuntmen.
Stunts, yes.
Yeah, right? That will be in there. But I do think there should be like
voice acting, please.
Voice acting.
Voice
I mean,
acting,
like
please.
a Shameik Moore. I'm in a movie with Shameik Moore here, but it's like he's great and he's so good in Spider-Man. But but to me, like I think that the thing that we're missing is that popcorn award, the movie that actually made a difference. I don't know what you would call it,
right?
But like the fact that Barbie only won one award,
kind of insane. It's kind of insane. And they tried to do something with the popular movie award, but I think like the branding around it wasn't right.
Well, because it also was like full for internet fodder to be like, oh yeah, it was like everything. Zack Snyder won every category.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah. And then you get the weird like Johnny Depp movie that nobody saw.
Right. Yeah, like a Bitcoin finance movie. So yeah, it's like, but I do feel like you want like I don't think it should be judged by the audience. I think it should be like this is Barbie made a giant dent this year. It was huge. I also think to that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't like the only thing I don't like about what Kimmel did last night was. I feel like they always shit on animation. Like, he's like, oh yeah, you remember your kids couldn't vote for this award, and it's like, come on now, we've gone this far.
Like, did you watch The Boy and the Heron? Like
I know.
I was like, did you watch any of the other nominees? You know what I'm saying?
These are not like we're past the point of calling animated movies kid movies.
Yes.
I think and it's like it's not like well, look, if it was nominated, great, Trolls World Tour, but it's but these are good movies. The only thing I was bummed at was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's what I was bummed out about as well. Like I think Elemental was there, and like as much as I love Disney and I love Pixar, like sometimes you just gotta like get them out the race every once in a while and get something else in there. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles definitely deserve to be there.
And I know that the dig on that was like, oh, it was too derivative of Spider-Man. I was like, no, Spider-Man is like starting a new thing, like Mitchell's versus Machines.
Thank you. And that was one of my favorite movies of the year when it came
so
out.
Great.
It was incredible. But also, I got up and I high-fived everybody in the room, and I never do this either. Like I never react so crazy to something. Godzilla -1 winning Best Visual Effects.
That was awesome.
That was a win.
Yes, huge.
Yes, and that was the first Godzilla movie ever nominated for an Oscar, ever.
See, and that's the thing that I feel like, the Oscars are always trying to figure out, like, how do we make it more interesting? How do we make it better? And it's like, I think you do numbers like Ken. I think you have those actors there, but you also have to, like, support and salute and make these jokes of movies that people have seen and really watch, because it isn't just for that room. It's for this giant thing. And when you do that Netflix special where it's like the Screen Actors Guild Awards, like they could be a little bit more insular. But this is like the Academy Awards. Like I have friends who've not seen Oppenheimer, and that's fine. And but that's okay. It's like we got to just make it bigger.
Cool. I could talk about Oscars.
Sorry. I know.
But you have a book, man.
Yes.
Like, congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's called Joyful Recollections of Trauma.
Yes.
What a title. Can we talk about how that's not an oxymoron?
Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. So I wrote this book called Joyful Recollections of Trauma, and you can pre-order it now. And that's apparently the biggest thing in publishing, which I did not understand. But you really have to sell the book before the book comes out. So trust me, it's good.
You got to build up the hype.
Yeah. But it was, I do this podcast called How Did This Get Made? And we talk about bad movies. And we just got done doing our 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, and we really dug into each one of those movies where nothing much happens. But in that show, I was talking about my life, and I would tell these stories that I thought were normal. And my co-hosts, Jason Mantzoukas and June Diane Rayfield, they were like, wait, what? And I was like, wait, not everyone had that? And,
you start to realize, like, wait a minute, what is my life?
Like, I told the story one time about how my grandma, to convince me not to open the door to strangers, told me the story about a butcher who was caught chopping up children and selling it as hamburger meat. And the way that they busted this butcher was one of the moms went to go get hamburger meat, and as he was making the patty, the hamburger said, "Mommy."
No. Wait.
First of all, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense, and you believed it. You're just kind of like, I don't want to be a talking burger.
I don't want to be a talking burger. I want to be like talking chop meat. But as a little kid, I was like, oh my God.
I mean, you believe everything your parents say. There's things parents have told us, like, to keep us from doing certain things.
And like, you only realize that when you get older. And I feel like when I became a parent, I was able to start to like look at my childhood in a little bit of a different way, because you take things for granted and you assume like, oh, that's the way that it has to be done.
Yeah.
And so I think this is it's a book about kind of going through a rough childhood and then kind of fixing yourself and then trying to figure out how you want to be a parent, like going from a kid who's being parented to a parent who has kids.
Yeah. As a parent, like I have a 6-year-old daughter, and so I totally like get that mode of living. It's, sometimes I get into that mode of maybe I should lie to my kid to get her to believe something.
I mean, it's kind of that tricky thing of where do you draw the line? Because I was talking about not placing your fear in front of your kid's fear.
Right, exactly.
And that's a really hard thing, because my kid may come home and say, I had I experienced this today, and your mind is like, okay, I'm 5 steps ahead because I'm an adult. I know where I'm going, and it's and then when you find out what their actual fear is, it's a lot smaller, and it's like that balance of not trying to make it right, not just trying to hear them and be there and
learning
listen
from them, all those types of things, and that's the key to parenting. I feel like most people don't want to listen to their kids; they just want to tell them and rear them. And when it's it's almost like a partnership in a way, right? You tell me what's going on with you, and then we can move forward as such.
And I think it's sort of I think hopefully we're in this parent generation where we can admit that we made mistakes too. I feel like my parents never apologized, and not in a way that they never made mistakes, right? I make mistakes all the time, and I think if you start that thing, then they'll also be okay to tell you that they've made mistakes.
Exactly. So tell me about your writing process. Was it agonizing, liberating? Was it cathartic? What was that like?
It's funny, when I was starting to write the book, the idea was all right, if you want an anecdote, I can give you an anecdote. Sure. I got that. Yeah. But I was it's a book. It's got to be a little bit more elevated. I have to go deeper. And so even before I sold the book, I started to write, because it's let me figure out what's here.
Right, of course.
And I wrote about 100 pages, and I got that far. And I was okay, there's something here, but I'm telling these stories that I've never really fully told. So much so that when my wife read the book, she was like, wait, this happened to you? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I just never brought it up, because it's sort of the party story that you tell somebody. It's well, I'm going to shave out this part. I won't tell them about my crazy experience here. So I think what it was is kind of a culmination of all these thoughts I've had in my head. And yes, agonizing too, because you're there and you're how do I explain all this stuff without it becoming boring? I have a relative in my family who will always start off a story like this. He'll be like, my aunt's friend John, he's actually friends with my Uncle Bob, and he went to the movies and he liked Barbie. I'm like, just say your friend liked Barbie.
Yeah. There's a whole web just to get to the Barbie.
Yeah, right. So it's you have to figure out what's important, what's not important, and I talk about a lot of stuff from my childhood, but I skip around. So I try to give you an idea of my career, but the book isn't about me being on the league or really acting. It's really about this journey of, I think a certain point, and it sounds self-helpy, but I think there's a self-acceptance and kind of how do you work on yourself to kind of get yourself better?
Yeah. It seems as you're writing it, you're kind of finding yourself in real time, because it allows you to put it on paper and explore everything.
And you read it over and over again, and then you get in that zone of do I want to be settling the scores here, or should I be a little bit gentler? Because it is. It's these are people, and you want to make sure you're doing right by them, even the people who you don't need to do right by.
Yeah. You don't want a Michael Jordan Last Dance and Scottie Pippen thing going.
Yeah, you don't need to do it. You've achieved the best. Once you put it on paper, it's so funny. I've been reading this Barbara Streisand book, and it's 2,000 pages. The audio book is 48 hours long.
Yeah.
And she calls so many men ugly. And I'm you don't have to put that in the book.
Why'd you have to say that?
And she's I married Elliot Gould, and he wasn't an attractive man. I'm well, why are you saying this? Why? She's Mandy Patinkin, I went for talent over looks. I'm no, just keep that in the back of your head.
Oh my gosh, man. Well, here's something I found interesting, because we talk about as you're writing surprises.
Yeah.
You said, I think I found a book that surprised me and still only scratches the surface.
Yeah.
What were some of those biggest surprises?
I think you start to see connections in yourself as you start to go oh, there's when I was a kid and I got in trouble, I had this moment where I was chased by these 3 dudes who were trying to steal my bike. Not kids, but they were adult men.
Wow.
These big, burly dudes who thought I stole their kid's bike. And I was afraid to ask for help. I was in my little area, center of town, and I didn't know where to go. But I was if I ask for help, that will be a problem. If I call my mom from work and she comes out of work, that's going to be an issue. And I started to realize how much being an only child at certain points, kind of created that mindset of like, I have to solve this myself. I have to solve. I had like a home invasion when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself in my house. Like one morning, this guy came to get money from my stepfather, who was just kind of this real, I mean, I don't curse, but real piece of shit. But, and he was like trying to collect this money, and he was like literally climbing through the windows of my house. And I was like a home alone, like Kevin McAllister, like defending this guy. But I could have called for help at any point, but I just didn't. It never occurred to me. And then when I'm writing this book, I'm like, that's something that I can carry over into so much stuff. You know, it's like, and learning that. So I think it gives you a chance to kind of look at and see these patterns and connect and be like, oh, I still do that, you know, to a certain extent.
Right. Okay. So with that story, if you feel like you're only scratching the surface and like discovering who you are, does that mean there's like more books that you can explore that even further?
You know, I think one of the last lines in the book is like, you know, and I still have more stories to tell. I mean, I didn't even tell you about this time I did a movie with Nick Cage. You know, it's like I didn't even get into that. Like, yeah, I think
leave it with the cliffhangers, man. Cliffhangers of your life.
But yeah, like, you know, I think it's like, look, it all depends on if the book sells. But but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I think that this book is really like focused on one type of thing, and you know, it's not a memoir. It's not even really a story about like what it's like to be in the biz. It's really just, hopefully a more general book that I think people can relate to is just like, as parents, as people who've like grown up through abuse, as people who have like, I don't know, just like I think it's a lot less about like a celebrity thing,
right,
you know.
Course,
it's like, so let's say,
that's what a book should do, man.
Yeah,
it should like look behind the celebrity because there's like a surface.
Yeah, because it's like I didn't want to be like, look, I have funny stories on set, but I don't know how much weight that has either. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm still working. I can't be like Barbara Streisand. And like,
You're doing your thing.
I can't be like talking about Nick Cage too much. You're like,
no, I feel that. Well, I do. I could talk about your book. I could talk about the Oscars, everything with you all day, and we're gonna do it soon.
I love it. Well, this is great.
That'd be great. All right, but thank you so much for coming to
my
the South by
pleasure.
Southwest studio.
Thank you so much.
This is great. You can watch all of our interviews on the YouTube page for South by Southwest. That is youtube.com/SXSW. I'm your host, Juju Green. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Catch you guys later. Seriously, this was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was a blast.
And that was no problem.